Welcome to Financial Freedom with the Flipping Flanagans, where we help real estate agents and already successful business professionals create legacy wealth through real estate. We go by the Flipping Flanagans, and we don't actually flip houses very often. When you drop the F-bomb a little too often, add that to a real estate background, you get the Flipping Flanagans. We actually buy property to hold and see long-term gains protected from inflation while seeing amazing benefits from appreciation and depreciation. See you on the other side.
Hello. Brad Flanagan here with my wonderful wife, Jamie. Hi,
Aw.
Jamie.
Hi, honey.
You guys, we're tuning in to begin our story, share it with you, and with a goal that you will learn something from it that will get you closer to your future goals. So, um, coming to you live from Arizona at the current moment. And today we travel across 3 different states where we spend the majority of our time running our businesses remotely, majority of the time trying to get the best out of life. And as we've created what we've created, we tend to get a lot of questions. Would you agree?
Yes, we get lots and lots of questions. So, and it's not intentional. We kind of accidentally fell into this investment real estate thing, and it turned into a bigger thing than we could have ever expected. And so, our background really is I have a small real estate team. Brad, you have a mortgage team, and that was really where our primary incomes were coming from. And we something I'd like to really drive home is we're definitely a couple of second chances, and that comes from a standpoint of relationships, business, making mistakes and getting through them and overcoming them. And I hope that this will inspire some people, because I know what it's like to be in a spot where you feel like you can't get out of it. And now seeing where we're at today and how much you learn from those opportunities is amazing.
It's like resiliency, strength, no matter what you do. I mean, think about fitness. You're working out. It's hard to lift whatever weight is hard. Like, it's hard for some people to lift 15 pounds. It's hard for some people to lift 30, and so on and so forth. So when you do it enough times and you struggle enough, as long as you don't quit, then you keep moving that number up. And the funny thing is, you're just chasing the difficulty, right? It doesn't get,
It's true.
you don't get the benefits without the difficulty. And so, second chances, resiliency, and a relentless pursuit, and not quitting. So, I think if you were tuning into this or just decided to click on this, and you're like, why am I going to listen to this? This is going to be that, I don't want to say rags to riches story, but like, it's kind of true. We came from a very humble place, and we're still humble, but now we have resources and things that increase or improve the quality of life and help us to impact others. So here we are trying to share with you on a greater scale, so that we can impact more people.
So, yes, coming from that humble beginnings, Brad and I met in 2008, ended up with a beautiful baby girl, Hannah, and kind of had to figure out our life. Probably not the podcast for you, and I'm probably not the person for you. But with that being said,
Give her a second chance.
give me a second chance. With that being said, Brad bought a truck. Like, let's just talk about that. I mean, we had how much money, you think? Oh, wait,
Well,
we didn't have any money. Brad had to pay my debt off.
We're going to go back 12 years, 2009, 2008, if you want to be exact. And, I mean, think about it. We're just now kind of trying to get over the COVID thing. So a decade ago, we were just getting over the tech and housing crisis, or tech bubble housing crisis. So we're going through different economies. We're coming from barely having a career to now multiple sources of revenue. So that's what we're going to try to get to. So yes, go back to 2008, we were very spontaneous people in the city of Las Vegas, mind you, at the exact moment that we met, and still no real plan or even care for what was going to be next week, let alone next year. And now that's what we've been able to do, I guess, is focus on long-term sustainability, scalability. So huge transition. I was fortunate enough to be a military guy. I got into the Army going back to 2003. Met Jamie 5 years after getting in, after being away in Afghanistan, and no real career. I was actually a motorcycle stunt rider, was my probably primary source of income, which wasn't much at all. No health insurance, no stability. Didn't know when the next job was.
Someday when we get lots of listeners, we'll bust out that motorcycle stunt riding video again.
And then Jamie, I mean, you weren't even permanently there, right? So
No, I went on vacation and I had a Capital One credit card that had a $3,500 limit and decided that I would just try and make that go as far as I could.
And so fortunately, we had probably at least some physical assets that were great. At least she did. I was captivated when I met her, and that actually was a moment, and could be hopefully a moment for maybe you guys if you are single and trying to get to the next step in the relationship, whatever. That's a huge motivator. So motivators will be things that we can talk about as we progress as well. But if I wanted to be worthy of this wonderful woman that I saw, I realized, okay, I need to do more than just kind of think about what's next weekend. I need to think about a future. So what further accelerated that was, yes, Jamie got pregnant, and we decided to relocate to Nebraska. Fortunately, I had a very entry-level experience in mortgage and was able to pick that career path up or maintain it into 2009, which you can imagine wasn't the easiest, but thankfully we were in the heartland Midwest where things were a little more insulated than your coastal areas. So those things and those factors are stuff we like to talk about, as well as markets and differences. But
So can I play on that for just a second?
absolutely.
When we moved to Nebraska, so he got a job doing mortgages again, and we talk about like the whole second chances. So you were in the mortgage industry, you got out, you got back in, right?
Yep.
Okay. So when I have a real estate team now, back then I did not. I didn't even know what I was doing. I worked the front desk at his mortgage company with Hannah behind the desk with me. And he was calling on just cold leads, people that, somebody else tried to work the file or work the lead and didn't come to fruition. So Brad would call on them and hope to get a deal. I then started getting my real estate license, and kind of that first year with us both in the business, that's what we did. I called on Craigslist trying to get buyer and seller leads, and you were trying to get mortgage leads.
Yep. Agent relationships, referral partners, that kind of stuff.
So going back to that, something that we've always been really good at together and separately, but together, is writing down our goals, right?
Absolutely.
And it was actually really, really cool because, we had our relationship, we hadn't really done business together yet. And so that was one of the most fun things that I can remember doing together, is writing down our goals and making a vision board. And as cheesy as some people think that is, it is the most powerful thing to be able to put your goals and what you actually, why do you wake up in the morning? Why, if something is going wrong with one of our investments, why take that tenant call? You have to have a reason that's bigger than you in order to feel motivated to do it and the passion to keep going. So anyways, we wrote down our goals. We've always had attainable, but what would you say? Attainable but lofty goals.
Yeah, there's SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable, attainable. Revisable it's a debatable, the R, but, and then timely. So doesn't matter how big it is, as long as you can figure out a pathway to get there. And at this time, where we're making vision boards out of construction paper like it was a 90s school project, we have a lot of debt, not a lot. We had less income than we had debt. As far as just the monthly budget, we had an $845 a month rent. And mind you, that's a attached townhouse that had 3 levels, lots of square footage. It was significant in size for what the amount of rent is. And so all these little data points, and you'll notice I'm the data guy, kind of little more nerdy when it comes to that. And Jamie is very into the details, but
I'm a visionary.
Visionary to the point where she might not even touch on the details. They just come to her so well that she's looking at the future, the bigger picture, and planning it on a more grand scale, whereas I kind of get into that micro a little more often. So
that's why we complement each other so well. Neither of us could do what the other one does, and I'm very thankful for that. It's very hard for me, and I'm sure many of my clients will hopefully listen to this, because that was one of the initial goals of this podcast. But you guys know that it's really hard for me to, I'm like, okay, so let's sell your house. And I'm like, all right, so in 6 months, here's what we're going to do. Here's how it's going to happen. And then it's like the in-between. I'm like, okay, I know how to get to the end, and I know what needs to happen in between. And then I have a team that helps me put all those details together, and we always accomplish the goal. It's just I'm more of a visionary, and my team is the details group, and I'm very appreciative of that. I'm not good at the details, and I'm okay with admitting that.
Well, and again, part of goal setting, vision planning, and then execution is knowing your strengths and your weaknesses. So I'm super pumped to get into that too, as far as identifying, and as you scale, what you can and what you need to work on, what you can work on to put some sort of an exponent on your growth and your success. So
okay. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so we've kind of talked about like where we came from, and let's kind of fast forward to where we are now. Mm-hmm. And then that way, moving forward, we can kind of dig into the details.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now you know the timeline, right? We started in 2009. Currently, as of the time of this, we're nearing the end of 2021. So 12-year range. And presently, we have executed in excess of $17 million worth of personal investment real estate transactions, and those are wholly owned. We're not a crowd-funded oriented capital raising real estate group. So from a scale standpoint, although 17 million is a relative number when you're saying a lot or a little, some investment groups are pooling money of different private entities. We're just a private investors, and we use our own money along with the bank's money. We don't raise private capital. And then that's in excess of how many transactions?
Gosh, we have...
I had a brief edit there, but that it's $17 million in transactions and 50 transactions. So over that 12-year period of time, you're talking 4 or 5 transactions on average per year. Obviously, we started recently, and then it compounds. But yes.
Yes. So basically, started our real estate investing in 2014, 2015. What?
I'm like, I don't know why I was trying to figure it out over 12 years. Instead, we actually really didn't start until 2015.
Yes. So quickly back to second chances. We Brad and I separated and divorced for a short time, and we couldn't live without each other. I missed him. I was like, hey, baby, take me back. And he took me back. So
I got some stories. That's a different podcast.
It is a different podcast, and that one will definitely be adults only.
You know.
I just mean because I would drop the F-bomb.
Oh,
Okay, so I purchased a home and a little townhome in Omaha. We still own it. And Brad had purchased a home. And so we ended up renting out my townhouse and moving our family into the house that Brad had purchased. And kind of crazy because we still own that property. We did not expect to be landlords, I don't think, long term. I mean, I think we both had it in us that we wanted to. I just don't know that we really knew that that's what the path we were going to go down. Maybe I could be off.
no, I think you're right. My grandparents, or my grandmother, I should say, was kind of into real estate, and so she planted that seed when I was little. I always just wanted the title of real estate investor, and then I'm
I
like,
think a lot of people do.
I'm like, well, just I wanted to say it because it sounded cool, and then I'm always like a technicality person, as you are well aware. It could be good and bad. But I was like, you only have to own one rental property to technically be a real estate investor. Like the guy that has 100 million is a real estate investor, and the guy that has one is also a real estate investor. So I was like, perfect. This is an opportunity, and we can say we are. So.
Yep. So we rented that house out. It was on a 15-year mortgage, FHA. So purchased the property for $103,000, and that property today is worth right around $175,000 to $180,000. And our first tenant, my payment on that was, I think, I'm going to be off within a few bucks,
Like
but
$11.97,
and we rented it out for $11.50. We were upside down by like $40.
But it was so
15-year mortgage.
Talk about the details, guy. I think it was a 2.75 or 3.25 interest rate on a 15-year, which, as you know, could have been kind of high in depending on what year you compare that to. And then you got mortgage insurance and homeowners association dues. So those things really impact what that overhead of the property was. And then you can only charge so much for rent.
Yep. So at that time, the market rent was right around $11.50. And so it was a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage. And it rented really quickly, thank goodness. And from there, the nice thing and what I saw, again, I'm a visionary, so I'm looking in the future. I didn't really care about the fact that it was upside down. Personally, I loved seeing that principal reduction every single month. I loved logging into my mortgage statement and seeing, I think it was like,
if you can remember your password,
$500 to $600 a month. And oh my gosh, I don't even know my passwords anymore. I couldn't tell you any of my passwords. But yeah, I would see the mortgage just principal going down and the house appreciating. And I know when we ended up, we still own that property, but we ended up finally refinancing it into a large commercial loan, because once we had multiple properties, that was what made the most sense. And that's something we'll talk about on one of the episodes as we dig into the details. But so I encourage you might be living in your very first rental property like I was. And if I hadn't rented that out, we'd be in a totally different position, just from that opened my eyes really to the opportunity that was available, even though I was not making cash flow. And so often when we sit down with people, it's all about the cash flow, and there's so much more to look at when you're considering rental properties, and equity position, and how much work does it need, and how much tolerance do you have to do the work, and do you have people that you know? Because if you don't know anyone to do the work and you can't get a good deal on getting contractors, it might make sense to buy something that's a little bit more move-in ready that you can just rent out immediately. All of those things are factors to consider, and everyone's going to be totally different. And as you know, I mentioned I do real estate sales. That's something I've had people ask me, like, if I bring them an investment property, it's, well, why didn't you and Brad buy it? And Brad and I look for totally different things than what another investor might look at. And then, I have a guy on my team, they like to purchase properties without basements. That's like not something that appeals to me. And so there's just everyone has a different idea and goal and life experience that's going to bring them into this realm of real estate investing in a different manner. And so I encourage you that if you've even thought about it, to reach out to us, and we can definitely get you started on the right foot of just asking you the questions that are going to kind of navigate where it might be a good place for you to start as a real estate investor.
So if you haven't picked it up by now, we have a hyper focus on real estate. We have a addiction to challenge and growth, and in their how they interconnect.
That's why he likes me.
Oh my gosh.
He likes the challenge.
So as you're listening to this and you're wondering, why am I listening to this? If you are into real estate, that's a clear reason to tune into the next episode. If you are in business with your significant other, another great reason. If you like to team build, if you have an interest in banking and goal setting and vacation rentals, or just having a busy life with kids, I promise you we are going to get into the thick and thin of all of those and more.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. We hope you'll hit that subscribe button to stay in touch. Also, join our Facebook group at Building Legacy Wealth Through Real Estate to find out more about what we do and what we offer. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.